Welcome to the Immigrant Investor Show, the show where you will learn from immigrant investors, business owners, high achievers, and thought leaders worldwide. Tips and strategies on how to invest your resources for maximum returns in whatever field you desire. Get ready for an exciting show today. I'm a full-time employee, investor, avid learner, willing teacher, and your humble host, Chinedu.
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Immigrant Investor Show. I am your host, Chinedu, and here with me is Adriana. Adriana is a coach of many colors.
Indeed.
Well, you'll get to learn more about her shortly, but I'll let her introduce herself. Hey, Adriana, how are you?
I'm doing good, Tina. Thank you for having me on, and I'm excited to share a little bit of my story and just have fun, because it seems like your podcast is a lot of fun. So I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Now, thanks for coming on. And yes, we do like to have fun here. I want to help as many immigrants as possible by sharing other immigrant rock star stories. And you're one immigrant rock star that I came across, 2 years ago now?
I think so. Yeah. Yes. Time flies.
I know. So it's great to finally make this interview happen. And hopefully our audience can be of value to you, and you can be of value to our audience as well. All right. So first question.
Yeah.
Well, what are you up to today? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to today.
Oh my gosh. So right now I'm in the coaching business. And I'm taking a little bit of a turn in a different manner. I'm a little bit of a disruptor. So, and I like that just because I'm channeling a lot of what took me into personal development and personal growth. I'm also now getting to challenge a lot of those notions and thinking that many times it was very helpful, but at the same time, it kind of led me to rabbit holes that were unnecessary. So, I am passionate about leadership and about the body, and more or less the relationship that you have with your own body. It's not about looking good necessarily, right? It is about looking good. Yeah. And also,
Why not?
Right, but it's also about feeling good, right? Because this is what I've learned in my journey, is you can look freaking amazing and you can feel miserable and feel miserable. So it's how you actually get to balance both, actually feel amazing and actually look amazing, regardless of what that looks like, whatever that, it doesn't matter. It's not necessarily about the shape, but also is about how you're carrying yourself in the world, how you're portraying yourself in the world, how you're expressing yourself in general, in relationships, in your career, and whatever you want to, whatever journey you're on. So those are my two passions, just because what I've seen now, people are disconnected from their bodies, and that carries a long-term effect. And for me, there are three categories that are very, very important: is health, career, entrepreneurship, and then money, and relationships. There are kind of four. I lump the ones in between together, because many times people go into a career or entrepreneurship for money, but mainly health, money, and relationships are things that 90%, if not, enough, everybody is thinking at one point of the day. You're thinking about any of those three things: either health, either relationships, or money. Either how can I make more money, where is the money going, or the relationship, like what's happening, and health, like how can I improve my health, or what's going on, what's wrong with me, how can I make it better. Either one of those three categories. And many times those, just as simple as those three categories can be, it could be really complex for an individual to navigate through. So I just immerse myself into that and just help as many entrepreneurs and people just to move on, and people, especially in transition after COVID, right? A lot of people had their W-2 jobs and they wanted to do something else. They decided to say, hey, I think I'm tired of doing what I'm doing. I don't think it's worth it. Life is too short. So a lot of people start transitioning in so many different ways. A lot of people got, divorced. A lot of people got into relationships. A lot of people just got into two different dynamics. And at the same time, it's like, how am I going to navigate this? So, yeah.
Wow. Can you help explain a little bit more? What do you mean that we're disconnected from our bodies?
Yeah. Oh my
How?
God. So how we're disconnected from our bodies. So think about it many times. You just keep going and going and out of pilot, right?
Okay.
You don't even realizing whether your health is suffering or whether or not, you have gone days without sleep or things of that nature. So we're disconnected from, and I'll give you an example too. Many times when people are disconnected from their bodies is the notion of, oh, I don't have time to deal with this right now. I don't want to have that emotion. I don't want to have that uncomfort. I don't want to face that right now. Because think about it this way. Anytime there's conflict and there's uncomfort, there's a sensation in our body. It's going to make us feel, oh, I don't like it. It's going to make me feel like I'm going to get angry. I'm going to get, or it could take us in a whole different, on the other side of the spectrum, just going to get us depressed, sad, and we just don't want to do anything. So many times, the disconnection with our body happens because we need to continue functioning, right? We need to continue going. But if we are to connect to any of those sensations and actually kind of go through it, it's going to lead us into actually having to think about it, actually having to feel about it, and having to deal with that. So it's a lot easier to disconnect. So that's why a lot of people face burnt out. That was me, right? You keep going, and it just doesn't matter. I need to make it, whatever it is, you keep pushing through. So the deal with hustle and grinding is great, but and I'm pretty sure you met a lot of people that it gets to a point where it's like, I don't know what else to do. I'm just burnt out. I got here and I don't like it anymore. This is not what I expected. So that's when you start sitting back to your body. And it's like, this doesn't feel good. Like, I don't even know why you did this, right? Or this is what I've seen more and more. It's like, I built all this wealth and now I don't even know why. There's no point. I don't have any purpose. I don't have any direction. So that little thing is just connected back to your body. It's like having that self-awareness and say, shit, like, what am I doing, right? But we go on autopilot. So that's kind of the disconnection that we have because we think our minds is the one that are going to get us the result. But in reality, we need our body to get us there. And we forget about that.
Wow. So, wow. Okay. Well, a lot of this actually hit me because
like, oh.
I'm like, is Adriana in my house right now? What's going on? So, man, earlier in 2022, I felt actually fall of 2022, I started feeling like I was drifting. I felt like pointless. Like, what am I doing? Everything I did didn't work. I thought I wanted to get to X amount of units, X amount of profit, and then or X amount of income. And I got there and it's like, well, it's okay. And then what? Like, what else? What else now? So I felt really lost. So saying that we disconnect from our bodies, and I didn't even know that I was going through stress at the time until I finally stopped. And you're breathing, and you're like, wait, I'm breathing. I'm actually breathing.
Like, oh, yeah. Yes, that's exactly how I feel.
You actually like start crying for no reason sometimes. It's like, what's going on with me? Is something wrong with me? So I feel almost ashamed like admitting this right now, but hey.
No, but I love it. So actually, I love that because this is exactly what we need to talk about. And I'm seeing this more and more with all kinds of people, right? I'm talking females, male entrepreneurs, whatever in your journey is like, I want to normalize the experience. To say it's okay to be in your body and feeling like shit, I don't have it together. Or there are times when I need to, crumble and cry, and it's perfectly fine. Because that's actually, it's not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of reset. something has to change. You need to change the pattern that you're going. You need to interrupt it. You need to disrupt. So it's how can we get to normalize that experience so we can actually have that and move on from there and say, you know what? Okay, good. I achieved this. It's time to move on rather than just dwell on it. Because many times it's happened, people drift or either you go into a depression or you move on into another goal. When you get there, it's gonna be still empty. So how can you start actually getting into a path where whatever it is that you're going, it's gonna be meaningful when you get there. And if you can continue moving on, because that's the whole idea, right?
Yeah. No, that is 100%, actually 1000% correct. And you're right. I actually wrote a tiny episode saying that pain is a present for us to be present, because a lot of times we keep going on autopilot and we don't realize until we actually break something and it's like, ouch, I actually have to feel this pain. It forces us to be present. It forces us to address it, sometimes healthy, sometimes unhealthy. Unhealthy, we pop a pill and we keep going. Healthy, we actually address the source and then we find a way to reverse it or treat the source. And then we actually come out better and we're able to proceed as even stronger humans, mentally, physically, emotionally. So that's that's awesome that you mentioned that. We can go down that rabbit hole because I love this stuff.
Awesome, I love that.
But before we get there, because this is the Immigrant Investor Show, what is your immigrant story up until this point? Where are you from? How did you even get here?
Oh my gosh, I love. So it is talking about transition and your relationship with everything in life, right? I for a very long time felt very ashamed of being an immigrant. Very in terms of I tended to hide behind the scenes. So my story, I'm Colombian.
Okay.
Colombian.
What part?
So I'm Colombian. So
what part of Colombia?
Cali.
Cali.
That's it. Yeah, that's where the movement is from. Yes.
I just interviewed a lady from Cali, Colombia.
Go, I'm telling you, man.
Nice.
We're everywhere.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, oh my gosh. So we've been here more than almost 25 years. I came when I was 16. I'm the youngest of three. Nice. My family has had an interesting dynamic because my mom's sisters, she was the only one that married a Colombian. All my aunts had moved here. They've been here almost like 50, 60 years, had, their children and all that. So I kind of call it like my gringo side of the family and then my Colombian side of the family, right? So I did not get to meet them until I came here. So my mom was the only one that stayed there. So we decided to leave, we came to back in, late 90s. And it was an interesting adjustment. I had also, I was battling my own demons in terms of, let's put it like psychosocial demons, right? And that took a huge part of my teenage years and my 20s and even for my 30s as well. So that was kind of part of the journey. The other portion was kind of integrating myself. I came from, Cali, which is, it's like a big city, warm, you walk, you go, everywhere. And I went right to Michigan, Lansing, Michigan. It's a tiny, tiny, tiny little town, as Midwest as you can get. So it was for me, it was very difficult to adjust. For some reason, for my sisters, it was a lot easier. For me, not so much. So I decided to do whatever it was, best to do at that point, go to the university, do that route, all that good stuff. I had to work my ass off to, pay my, my education. I did not, I think I only had one student loan. I paid it off. I had like 2 or 3 jobs. So talking about being disembodied, it was me, I had to do what I had to do. I remember, so I used to work at a pizza place, the third shift. I will go to an assisted living facility. Then I would go to the university, maybe take a nap, and then go back to the pizza place. So it was, yes. So it was kind of a nightmare. In the midst of that, there was also the emotional roller coaster, right? This is having to deal with, why do I have to do this? All that good stuff. Which now that I look, I had to do a lot of work, not only kind of to forgive myself, but also give some grace to my parents, because they did the best they could, right? So, and now looking back, which is, I think it was one of the conversations that we're having before, is when I look back, is like having that resilience at that point is what now is getting me through to say, hey, it is possible. It might hurt a little bit in a little bit of the journey is going to be a little bit painful, but it's going to be so freaking worth it. So for me, that experience I map it across not only for me, but I'll bring it back to my clients and to the people that I work with is, let's, like you mentioned, let's lean on that pain. There is sad learning there. There's going to feel uncomfortable. There's going to take work, but at the end it's going to, it's going to be worth it. So, because I don't think if I would have gone through that journey, I wouldn't have appreciated, the hard work that it takes to get what you want. Especially if we can argue either way, right? But there's a disadvantage. When you're an immigrant, there's a disadvantage.
That's one of the questions. Let's go.
Right? There's a disadvantage. You're always gonna be looking like you're too dark. You have too much of an accent. You don't have an accent. You look too white, or you're too from here. You're too from here. So it's like, it doesn't matter. You're not.
You're too white. You're not white enough. You're too black. You're not black enough.
You've been here for 25 years, but then you have an accent, and that means you're not from here. So where are you from? I grew up here, so I consider the States. So it's still fun dealing with that, right? Like, no, this is home. And like, I'm not going back anywhere.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know where home is.
Home is like, I don't know where you're sending me, Mom. I'm here. I'm like, and I'm gonna stay. So so it has, I continue that to say that for me, that was one of the biggest things. So there are three ingredients for the human beings: is safety, connection, and belonging, and a sense of identity, or a sense that you matter, or significance, right? And for me, is connection and belonging had been one of the biggest ones. Not even safety, believe it or not. Growing up in the 80s and 90s in Colombia was, it was a little tough, right? But not even that. It was not that. It was like the connection, the connection and the belonging that you can feel no matter where you go. So that also allowed me to say, you know what? There are a lot more people that feel like an outcast, right? So how can you embrace actually being an outsider and even if you are an outsider, which is nothing bad, because for me, I reframed the whole concept of being an outsider. It was like, being an outsider actually gives me flexibility to go in and out anywhere I go. Any group, being part of here, being part of that, rather than me staying in the back. I can actually lean in and go in, when I want to. So that also kind of allow me to, all those experiences allow me to kind of reframe and actually re-embrace what it means to be an immigrant. It's like, we bring a lot of flavor.
Yes.
Like, so it's now like actually being proud and not having to be mad or frustrated when people ask me, oh, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Colombia, but I live here. So it's like all that has took me a while. And at the same time, I now want to pass it back to the generations to come and say, hey, no matter where you come from, you can make it. And the other thing is that trying to Americanize is great if you want to adjust because that's why you want to adopt, but not because you have to. Not because you have to feel obligated to change something about who you are. If you want to do it because you want to and you like it, do it. But not as a way to change something, the essence of who you are.
This is awesome. So a friend of mine is visiting from Brazil now. He's from Nigeria, but he's visiting from Brazil. And he was asking me, he was like, "Do you have an American voice?" I was like, "No, I just talk."
That is so funny.
Like,
Oh
I
my
just
God.
talk. Like, I
I
don't
just like, I
know.
don't know if I have an American voice. That is so funny.
I understand what you're saying because he feels like he has to talk a certain way to talk to Americans, and I'm like, no, brother, I just be yourself.
Mhm.
Now there are sometimes your accents will naturally flow in and out. Like if you're talking with a fellow Colombian, of
Mhm.
course, it's a party. It's
Yeah,
different.
it's gonna go. Yeah, exactly.
If you're in another different room with a lot of Americans, then it's slightly different. It's subconscious, but you don't know that it happens. But it's
Mhm.
not like you're forced to make it happen.
Mhm.
So now, question. I know your
Yeah.
immigrant story to this point, coming from Cali, Colombia. Did you even speak English when you came?
No,
Oh,
no,
wow.
no.
Wow.
So,
How did that?
uh, telling you. So my sisters came when I think they were 17, 18. So they
Mhm.
did the last 2 years of high school. I came to visit. I was, my aunt, I was like, "Do you want to stay?" I'm like, I was 12 about that time. I'm like, no, no, no. I want to go back. I want to finish. So they went back to Colombia, and then I was the only one, not because my mom already knew English. It was my mom and my dad and I. So
Mm.
they try to, teach me. You take, classes at, in high school, which then you think, this is the typical thing they would say in Colombia. Is like, yeah, you understand it, but but you don't speak it.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I'm like, hey, no, I'm good. It's just a matter of just practicing and all that. When I came here, I had no idea.
Mhm.
I'm like, people started talking, and it was kind of frustrating because it was only my dad and I, and then the rest of them, they were just communicating, and we're like, okay, this is frustrating. So going to high school was a nightmare. I can tell you that.
Yes, yes,
um,
yes.
the other thing is because I also didn't finish. I came from a high school in Colombia where you have to wear uniforms every day.
Yes, me
So
too.
you don't have to pick up your clothes. So you just, there's no like putting makeup or your hair,
Yes,
anything like
yes.
that. Just, take a shower. And then, so for me, the concept of having to choose what I was going to wear. And I was, I have a hippish soul, right?
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
So, I mean, I like my random things that sometimes they don't match.
uh-huh.
So it was for me getting acquainted and be, received was not necessarily that didn't happen.
Mhm.
Uh, and so that also didn't allow me to kind of, communicators to have a big social group.
Yeah.
So learning, I did have a boyfriend, an American
Uh-huh,
boyfriend, so that helped me quite a bit. He
uh-huh.
was really nice because he corrected me. So I took it as an English accelerated class.
They
It's
say
like,
love will make
okay,
you do some things, and
yeah,
that's
I
one
mean,
of
let's
it.
let's make it happen. So yeah, so I ended up learning English late in my teens.
Okay.
And then just moving from there. But it got to a point, you get the conversation stuff going on.
Mhm.
When you go to the university, it's a completely different story because then you have to write, you have to not only the reading, but it's the writing part.
Mhm, mhm.
You don't write like you speak, so it was like all these challenges. And it was not until I got there that I said, oh yeah, that what I knew, I don't think I knew it
Mhm,
at all.
mhm, mhm,
So yeah, I learned later in life.
this hopefully this doesn't make you feel bad, but I've been learning Spanish and Portuguese, but lately Spanish, and I was like, okay, I've got it. I've got it. And then I went to Costa Rica for 1 month, and I was like, ¿Qué pasó?
¿Qué
What?
pasó? What's
What
good?
happened? What's good? Everybody's talking too fast.
Well, that's exactly what happened. It's like I knew. I like, of course I know. Then
Yeah,
people started talking so fast. Like,
yeah.
and then the other thing is that they teach you like, how are you? But then you get here, it's like, hey, how you doing?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm
What's
like, what
up?
are you doing? Like, what's up? I'm like, that's not what I learned. So that's a variation of what I learned. Like, no,
You have to say, how are you? Okay. If not, I don't
Yes.
understand it.
Yeah, because then you already got me lost in the conversation. Now I'm thinking like, what? Oh my God.
Oh, that's funny. No, you're serious. It's funny because, yeah, when I was in Costa Rica, I was like, okay, okay. Habla más despacio, por favor. Más despacio. Like, speak slowly, please, speak slowly. And then, of course, you hear, someone said ¿qué tal? I was like, what is ¿qué tal?
Yeah. Wait, what?
Like, I don't know ¿qué tal? I don't know ¿qué tal? Anyways.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's exactly how it is. Yeah, it's like they switch. Yeah. So
Yeah, it's crazy how like what you learn professionally doesn't really translate to conversation. You're correct. That's true.
not at all.
So, with all of this that you went through and navigating, adjusting, and all that, what was that turning point in you where you went, huh, I can actually help people connect their body to their mind?
So one of my turning points, that's a great question. One of my turning points, well, I always had kind of a servant heart. And it was not until I got to that point where I got really burned out, right? And, I did the corporate world, great. And it was not until that point that I started like this, there has to be something else. I've always been curious about the connection, not only of the, mind and body, because it's only one, but it's for me, it's about the human potential. How can you actually go through greatness, or you can go through your darkest points, and how can people move on? How can people, move themselves out? What kind of support do they have, or, or whether or not they could or not? Anyway, I think it was my own personal journey, not only as an immigrant, but also from having this, I will call like an emotional, was I diagnosed? Yes. Was I ever subscribed with my diagnosis? Not really. So it was me having the ability, like something that I always try to move on and get over and pass on, having to discover the ability of the human in terms of the brain and body to move on through challenges, to be resilient, to move, past traumas, to all that. So it was not the point when it was not until the point that I got burnt out that I said, there has to be more. And I got really depressed. I got really, really, it was like, it was that point where like you should, I was feeling guilty about everything, right? You should be feeling grateful, but at the same time, I'm miserable. I'm not happy. And at the same time, I'm burning the candles in both ends. I was, looking to do something else, and that wasn't working out. So it was there like, I don't think I'm by myself here, right? The other thing that I started discovering is I got to meet people that have already moved on and say, hey, yeah, I was there. This is what you need to do it. And then you'll get where I am. And I said, well, I think the journey is a little bit more challenging and more difficult than that, right? Because I know what I'm supposed to be doing, because if it's all about knowledge, I can go ahead and do that, but it's not about only knowledge. So that's what I started. Got like, okay, I want to help people actually make it where they are, not by telling them what to do and follow it, but actually giving the tools to actually work through that, that challenge, that resistance, that, that ickiness that people feel like, should I even be here? Should I continue to do that? So it was my own ickiness that said, you know what, there are tools that people need to get what they want.
Okay.
It's not the knowledge by itself. For knowledge, there is Google.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right. So you can find, if it were to be, if it were only knowledge, and think that people following directions, yes. But then there's the human component, the human element. Everybody's different. Everyone brings their own story. Everybody brings their own challenges, their own situations. So based on when you are right now, how can you move on? So it was my own personal journey to say, yeah, I got the tools. I know, I got what you're saying, but it's not resonating with me. And it's not applicable to my, my situation right now. So for me, it was like, how can I start helping those people with a variety of situations, backgrounds, whatever it is that they want to be to where they want to go.
So now, question: you mentioned tools a few times, and I'm sure you have probably a step by step of how to get to certain situations. Would you mind giving us a brief or broad overview of some of those tools and some of those applications of those tools?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So I'm all about mechanism, right?
Okay.
It's both the mechanism and the knowledge. So when for me, when the body doesn't work, when the mind is not getting you where you want to go, you need to use the body
Okay.
to actually create some movement. So, and I'm not talking about doing exercise apps and all that, but when you're stuck in a point in your mind, you have to use a mechanism in your body to actually make you move, to actually start generating some movement. And that goes back all, it all happens at the neurotransmitter level, all that good stuff. So I kind of started learning, like, what is it that is going to get us moving? What system actually is propelling us to actually making us move? Because I don't believe in procrastination. So
Okay.
I'll give you one example. People talk a lot about procrastination and self-sabotage. I don't believe on that.
Okay.
Many times when you're talking about procrastination and self-sabotage, is because there's a conflict in terms of what is it that you want to go, what is it that you want to do. So when
Okay.
there's a conflict in terms of those things that you want, the things that you're considering important in your life, then that's where you're gonna find the resistance. I call it's not necessarily resistance, but it's almost like that. Okay, I'm taking 3 steps and then I'm taking 2 steps, backwards. Or I just don't want to. I just don't want to do it.
Okay.
So it's that alignment in terms of what you want or what you're pursuing. Is it really what you're wanting at the end of the day, right? Because I'll give you an example. People say, hey, I want money and I want X amount of dollars, right? Okay, what is that going to give you anyway?
Okay.
And it sounds like a simple question, but if we don't anchor into something specific, then when you get to those, 1, 10, whatever $1 million you want, right? You're not going to anchor it to anything significant in your life. And it's not the money that we're pursuing. It's something that is going to give us something in a specific. And that's why many times I would challenge people, X amount of dollars, X amount of units, especially with real estate investors, with a lot of people, it's like, this is just one thing. That's the externality. So what I do is like, how can you bring it and anchor it back to the person so they can actually start measuring whether or not that makes sense. The other thing is, there is a very, very, very thin line in terms of threshold, in terms of the goals, quote unquote, right, that you want to create for yourself. One of the things in personal development is like, create your big dreams, so big, so big that is going to challenge you so much. Well, at the neurological level, if they're huge, they're out of the threshold for you. You already create that is impossible. So no matter what you're doing, you're actually, it unconsciously, I'm never going to make it there. It's kind of futile because you're working hard, but unconsciously you're already creating in your mind that you're not going to make it. So it's like how to find that sweet spot between something that, yes, it will challenge you to move your ass off towards that goal, and also not so out of bounds that is, unconsciously, turning you off. So I do a lot of that work, is that calibration in terms of like, okay, let's look at what is it that you want to do and recalibrate and align it something internally that goes back to embodiment, go back to the body, right? Okay. It's like, yeah, if you're telling me you're going, but you're out of, it's going to get to a point that is going to catch up to you. So I bring any external thing that they're pursuing, I bring it back to the person. Okay. So when they get there, it's already anchored.
Okay. So now I'm curious now about, let's say, what does a typical, let's say a person comes off, actually listens to this podcast and is like, hey, I want to work with Adriana. What does a typical step-by-step look like?
So we usually have a conversation, right? Okay. That's the initial conversation. And I see whether or not it's a right fit. Why? Okay. because not many times people many times want to do the work, but they're not ready. So
Got
that's the other thing, is like, that's a reality that we gotta face. Could I make a good buck out of the person? Yes, but is the person ready, and is it gonna make any sense for them? Probably not. So I'm measuring the readiness of themselves. Like, what have they done? What are they looking to do? What did they do that it didn't work? What did they try already that it didn't work? Or what are they looking for?
Okay.
Right? Because there's a really, fine distinction between somebody that already knows the problem and is looking for the solution, and somebody that is not even aware of the problem.
Yeah.
So, not right. So I can perceive whether or not, like, what's probably holding you back. But if it's up to me to convince you or telling you that that's the problem, I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
Right? Because then I'm almost like, you're paying me to tell you what the problem is and convince you that that's your problem, and it could be something else.
Yeah.
Right? So it's more like a conversation and exchange. So that's how we start, and then from there is like, in one context. This is the other thing. When people are looking at change and transformation, they want to do everything and everything all the time at once.
No.
It doesn't work that well, right?
Yes.
So you're telling me you want to shape shift your body. You're either gonna want to gain weight, lose weight, doesn't matter, right? And at the same time, you want to meaningful relationship, but and you're working on transitioning from in your job or your career, and you want everything to work at the same time. It's probably not gonna work.
You sure?
What is it? So that's like think about it. There's a hierarchy of needs, and I'm not talking about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, but just just in general, right? Food, water, safety, connection, meaningfulness, and then there is a hierarchy of priorities, right? So you have your context, you have your health, you have your relationships, you have your career, you have your spirituality, or a connection with a higher being, whatever you want to call it, right? So what is it a priority for you, and what is the biggest pain point right now? What is it that you think you want to create, and what is it that you think is holding you back? I want to measure that, right? Is it something within themselves, or is it that they're blaming it on somebody else in the environment, right? So then we go from there, and then we narrow it down, and then expand from that scope.
Okay.
Now, all contexts are related if you think about it, right? Somebody that has health problems it didn't say, hey, I just want to get sick, or I just want to have health problems. Obviously, everything is interconnected. So what is it the number one priority? What is going to create a little bit of movement in my client in order for them to gain trust in themselves, to know that they can make it? Because that's the other thing, is how can they have a quick win to say, okay, I think I can make it. I think I can do this. Okay, let's try something else, right? Because that's the other thing. If you try to work everything at once, you get the result, or you get a little bit of a result, but then you try to work on something else that is huge and you don't get it, you get frustrated. So then you also get to learn your body. So the other thing is that I'll teach them the tools that they can take with them. So if they want to come and visit and have a conversation with me later on, great. But if not, I want to empower people to do the work on themselves. I want to get them to know their mind. I want to get them to know their body. Like, what is it that I need to do when I get frustrated? What is it that I need to do when I'm stuck and I don't know what else to do? Right? That's what I do, and I teach them a lot of the tools in terms of how can they actually start shifting their mind and their body together, so when they're not with me, they can actually get what they want.
Okay. Nice. So now I'm going to dive a little deeper, just because I'm curious now. So for the time, because this is, by the time this actually airs, it's going to be after the holiday period. But around the holiday period is when people start to feel lonely, start to feel depressed, and all that good stuff. What are some actionable tools that you could say, okay, let's say Trinidad is depressed today. What are some tools that you can give me today as a step-by-step that I can actually work on myself?
Great. So, and it's a great question, because I'm working right now so we're putting a program to transition people through the holidays to start, so this is this is one of the tools is this. People wait until the beginning of the year to start something new. So and this is regardless of whether or not you believe in a New Year's resolution.
Okay.
And consciously, that December 31st is the end of the year, because that's how we've been conditioned. That's been conditioned for centuries, right? So, at the end of the year, especially if you're, in the Western culture, 31st is the end of the year. So the problem is that you get a group of people that, first of all, get really depressed post the holidays. So you have absolutely, your dopamine just drops and you just don't want to do anything. There's nothing you can do. It's not that they're being lazy or anything. It's just your dopamine, all the things, their markers are down, right? So that's number one mistake. So if you want to start something at the beginning of the year, you got to start at least 3 or 4 weeks before that. And no, the 3 or 4 weeks before is not scientific. It's not scientifically based. For some people, it works way, way, way before, 2 weeks before. But the key is to start before before that change of the year, before that threshold. That's what I'm talking about. Now, I'm saying 3 to 4 weeks because that's what I found that's the sweet spot for people, right?
Okay.
You get to navigate not only stress of the holidays, but you also get to be in the midst of, whatever is happening. You get to find yourself, be resourceful, and find the internal resources you need to navigate whatever challenge you're facing, either if it's family, if it's relationship, if whatever it is, right? Or if it's financial, it doesn't really matter.
Okay. Oh, cool. Thank you. So for those who are going into the holiday season or whatever, or those who are coming out of the holiday season, and let's say they want to start a goal in the summer of 2023, so they should probably start maybe sometime in June, start putting things together and getting small wins and building confidence before that day actually arrives.
Right. Now, the other thing that is counterintuitive, but that's based on studies that have been done, is you need to foresee the challenges that you're going to face and also the failures. So why? Because while you're prepping the unconscious mind. It's almost like you're prepping your procedural memory to know, okay, there are going to be challenges, there are going to be failures, and it's almost like you're walking through those ahead of time. So when you get there, you're not surprised by them, you're not demotivated, and I'm kind of adding kind of the psychosocial aspect of that, and you can continue going. So it's when you're creating a goal, more than just picturing the end goal, which is what a lot of people do. Yes, by the end of XYZ, I'm gonna get X or Y or whatever that is. But in the space in between, that's what people don't plan for. But if you kind of start facing, okay, I know I'm gonna face this challenge, I could face this challenge, and actually, it's almost not prepping for the worst case scenario, but also knowing that along the way, there are points where you're going to fail. Because as always, that's the way we learn, right? So and this is not because it's unspready, but it's when we fail at something, there's a chemicals in our brains that create a stamp and say, that's not the way we do it. It's this way. So that makes a greater impact on your body and say, oh, okay, so almost like you're waking up. Right? It's like, okay, now I know. And you can see with everybody's like, learn from your mistakes. It's not because it's unspread, it's just because it's creating those little stamps in your body. It's like, no, we don't do it this way, we do it this way. So that to say, if you plan that ahead, and I'm not saying that you're planning to make a mistake, but you kind of unconsciously know, I am going to fail at some point and it's going to be okay in order for me to move forward. Then when you get to the point of failure, it's a lot easier for you to move on rather than dwell on, because that's what people do is dwell. I'm not made for this. So you're prepping your brain and your procedural memory to move on past the failure.
Absolutely. This is awesome. Actually, that's how I generally think now. I actually look this is weird. I look forward to failure because I know I'm on the path of something better. So, because I know as the failures come, that's how I learn. I mean, most
Mhm.
people learn best from failures. So I'm reshaping my relationship with failure, and this is awesome to mention at this point in time. So, one last thing before we round up: how has your immigrant journey? How has your immigrant background helped or hurt your journey so far?
So let's start with the help.
Okay, okay,
So I think it has opened a lot of doors
okay.
in terms of people being curious. Human beings are naturally curious, whether you like it or not.
Yes.
So it has opened a lot of doors in terms of curiosity, like, okay, what is she about? What is she bringing to the table?
Mhm.
Many times I'm perceived as somebody that is more. I like to, because I like disruption. Many times people perceive me in a different way, and
Mhm.
then when I present myself, whether in whatever context, it's like that pattern interrupt. So I think considering myself to be an outsider and
Mhm.
now reframing that has allowed me to actually kind of shedding light into different areas and
Mhm.
different opportunities from a whole different aspect.
Mhm.
Kind of being able to foresee, being able to be flexible and adaptable, to be quite
Mhm.
honest.
Mhm.
Being able to, um, it's not that going with the flow, is actually being able to learn in a way that is just malleable. Let's put
Mhm.
it that way. So I can relate to anybody.
Mhm.
And that's what I like. It's
Mhm.
it's me having, it's a humbleness.
Yes.
That's also, it's I think that's kind of what I bring to the table, is it's humble, because you never know who's gonna teach you something and who's gonna give
Yeah.
you the biggest lesson.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's good because you've had to do it time and time again, just coming to the US, from Cali to Michigan to you're in Atlanta now.
yeah, I'm in
So,
Atlanta.
yeah, so you've had to adjust multiple times and you had to relearn, I guess, the humility to learn from anyone and everyone, So this is absolutely awesome. And then how did it hurt?
Like, I don't think it hurt. I think sometimes it takes me back in terms of what it makes me wonder what opportunities would have been, what could have been different if I wouldn't been, either if I would have stayed there or if I wouldn't
Mhm.
have been an immigrant. So
Mm.
but in the midst of that wonder, in the midst of that questioning, it also allows me to see, okay, maybe it would have been different. It doesn't really matter right now.
Mhm.
That shows me that there's still options,
Mhm.
because if I have come this far, actually, you know what I was thinking right before we started the podcast is
Mhm.
like, now that I'm in my 40s,
Okay.
right? Right now, I'm at a place that I dreamt to be when I was probably in my teens and my 20s.
Mm.
And
Okay.
now is like getting that retrospect is like, now I get to enjoy it.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Adriana. So, well, we could go deep and deep and deep and deep and deep and deep, but I'd like to take a quick break to go for this part of the show that I call the Caliente Corner. Are you ready?
All right, bring it on. I'm excited.
So I'm going to fire some quick questions. You know what I noticed? A lot of folks of Latin origin actually love the Caliente Corner.
Uh-huh.
And probably because I've been, learning Latin languages, that's how this came about. But I'll fire some quick questions at you. You fire some quick answers at me, and we could unpack it if we want to.
Right.
And then
Awesome.
we'll close out with one or two last questions, and we're done. Cool.
Awesome. Yes.
All right. Favorite food?
Pizza. Hawaiian. I'm a pineapple with extra pineapple.
Pineapples on the pizza. Got it. Oh, you have started a war. Favorite book?
How emotions are made.
How Emotions Are Made. Nice. By who?
Lisa Feldman Barrett.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks. Favorite vacation spot?
Ooh, it has to be the beach.
Which beach?
Doesn't matter. As long as there's a beach, I'm down for it.
Sand
So,
and sun. Give me that.
yeah, exactly. Then fun. Sign me up.
Awesome. Favorite mentor idol
Favorite mentor idol.
or idol?
Definitely. Um, I'm gonna say there's she's not necessarily idol. Mary Curie. She's
Okay.
yeah. She was a
The,
physicist.
the physicist. Oh, the discovered. She won a Nobel Prize, right?
She did. She
Okay.
did.
Okay. That's
Mhm,
her. All
yeah.
right. Cool. And then finally, favorite hobby.
Oh, my favorite hobby, mountain biking.
Mountain bike. Oh, okay. So that's the first.
Yeah.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So, last question is
All right.
what is one common piece of advice that you have grown to realize that it's absolutely trash?
Oh my gosh. Um, I'm gonna say willpower.
Okay.
And I probably gonna get a lot of hate for that, but I don't care.
Okay. Oof.
So there is
Should I brace myself?
it's like
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
so it's not necessarily willpower, what it is, willpower,
Okay.
but how it's presented to people, how it's delivered to people, and how it's guilt tripping people, how
Okay.
it's utilized. So it's not everything is not everything and anything is about willpower.
Okay.
Yes, there is, and even neuroscientists go back and forth in terms of this, but it's how willpower is utilized, in at any given moment.
Okay.
So a lot of people can harness that and move on through things, and a lot of times it's not about willpower, it's just taking a reset. It's
Mm,
just saying, you know what, it's I there's no way for me to continue to willpower this because my body cannot handle that anymore.
mm,
So it's like it's not everything about willpower, it's just how you harness it and how you actually manage it. And that was kind of my biggest thing that led me to, and I've seen it more and more, like willpower, you got it, you keep going until
mhm,
you burn to the ground, but you made it. When you
mhm.
made it, you burn to the ground, then what's the point?
Yeah,
Right? So it's like, how do you find a sweet spot with willpower,
yeah. Mhm,
and that not it's not going to work for everybody.
mm. Okay, okay, cool, cool, cool. Thank you, thank you. Now, if someone has listened this far and they're like, we absolutely love Adriana and we want to work with her, how do they get in contact with you?
So I'm in social media, Facebook, Instagram, and I also have my website too, so they can reach me through there. And it's wellness awe, so just wellness, like wellness, and awe.com.
W
Mhm.
oh WLLNESSAWE.com.
Yes.
Okay, and on Facebook and Instagram is the same.
Yep. No, and Facebook and Instagram is I am Adriana Giraldo, so it's my name, Adriana Giraldo. Um, so that's how's the quickest and fastest way to reach me. Um, yeah.
Okay. Cool, 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 cool. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for taking time out of your busy day to share your knowledge and your expertise with the immigrant investor community. I am sure that there are a lot of people who can relate. Now, what's one final word for those people who are listening?
Oh my gosh. For those people that are listening, for my immigrant peeps, is you're awesome. We're awesome. And there's so much richness and potential. We're really there's so much richness and potential that we have and that we bring to the table. So just be proud of who we are in terms of the all the goodness, and doesn't matter what we bring. I think that's what makes us unique.
Mm,
And the last is, how can we bring more joy and excitement to our life?
mm,
um, how can we start actually living our life to a point where we're actually satisfied and happy?
mm,
And it sounds simple, and maybe esoterical, but I think that's COVID has taught us, that is, um, yes, there is a point where we're needing more excitement.
Mhm.
We need to have more fun, and we actually need to be embracing each other a little more.
Mm, mm, mm.
So,
Cool. Thank you. So for that person who's listening and they're like, okay, what do I do now in the next 24 to 48 hours to get in the right direction? What would you tell them?
I would say one of the things is take inventory and
Okay.
don't lie to yourself.
Okay.
There's no point on cheating. No point on, because nobody's gonna see that.
Mhm.
But take inventory of 10 things that are actually not working for you,
Mhm.
or the things that are quote unquote working for you, but are not getting you where you want to go.
Okay.
By contrasting those two lists, you'll know where you need to change.
Okay. Well, you heard it from Adriana. All right. Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Good people, it's been fun hanging out with you today. If you enjoyed the show, leave us a comment, a rating, and a review. You know someone who needs this? Share it with them. You want to hear more? Smash that subscribe button, and we will talk soon. Until next time, the world is your jungle. Go out and dominate.